South Carolina. That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But to me, South Carolina is simply known as home. To the native born, life can be summed up by horses in the pasture and red dirt on the road. Those who have grown up in South Carolina know that the past is just as much a natural part of our lives as the trees which line the driveways. An appreciation for tradition and a respect for the beauty around us serves as a backdrop to understanding everyday life in South Carolina. There's no better place to start this story than the front porch of the church. Since the founding of this country, the front porch has been a staple of Southern storytelling, and the church the center of social life. In a time before telephones and digital communication, the front steps of the church were the center of a town's social life, a ritual which still carries on today. As the years passed by, white pillars could be seen adorning the fronts of plantation homes all across the area. The pure white on the outside of the buildings stood in stark contrast to the blood-stained institution of slavery which built them. As tensions grew, states' rights were called into question, and South Carolina acted. First in secession, South Carolinians pledged their allegiance to the Confederacy. The battle flag of Northern Virginia still casts a shadow on the ground we walk on. It is a controversial symbol which represents a state's fall from grace and the continued loyalty of a people to their past. The dark days of post-Civil War Reconstruction were soon met with golden prosperity. The emergence of the textile industry revitalized the state, creating economic growth and much-needed jobs for the people. All across the state, entire towns popped up around these mills. As the economy grew, buildings began to get larger. Manufacturing success saw the beginning of building up and building out. While the wealthy flaunted their riches, a close community was created by mill workers. These working-class heroes became the stuff of legend on the baseball diamond. Mill teams offered workers an outlet to escape the drains of factory work, and, for a select few, the dusty base path became a bridge to a brighter future. Names made playing baseball like Champ Summers and Shoeless Joe Jackson still remain a part of folklore today. One of the preeminent symbols of Americana, the Coke sign, would have been seen at most any soda shop in small-town South Carolina, and probably would have been enjoyed while watching a mill baseball game. Coke advertises by selling a warm and fuzzy feeling of family with their product. Much like the stylized Coke advertising, the bright image of the South was only part of the story. Like all idealized versions of reality, a brick would eventually shatter the glass window. The effects of globalization brought an end to the Southern way of life under the mill system. Outsourcing saw chains run across the gates of factories. The mills, which had been the cornerstone of the community, were put permanently behind closed fences. The industry left. The people were left jobless. Today, the ruins of a time now past remain all around. More than 60 years since the collapse, some South Carolina streets evoke feelings of a third world country after an attack, with couches sitting overturned in the streets. Now, nature has begun to overtake buildings which were once bustling with life. Without jobs, payments could not be made. People's cars were repossessed, homes were foreclosed upon. With fallow dirt from overworking the land during the plantation years, and no textile mills to provide jobs, South Carolina found itself in suspended animation for the better part of a century. The same houses which were homes to the families of mill workers still sit mostly vacant. The spirit of community which had been relying upon the mills slowly transformed into a nest for crime activity and poverty. Graffiti and vandalism can be seen on stop signs and walls. One particular vandal asked the question about life without television. It raises the question of what life would be like without the advance of technology. Perhaps the mills would still be here. Some would hope that the idealized past could come back, even if just for a little. But here lies the crossroads. South Carolina has moved on. Instead of hearkening for a past which is haunted by faults, we must move forward to the future. Progress and innovation have created the start to a fresh new approach to the South Carolina way of life. Even though the mill communities are long gone, the friendly nature and warm smiles of the people in South Carolina still persist. That Southern hospitality, as people like to call it, has become the centerpiece of an entire economy. Tourism and service are now the foundation for life in South Carolina. 15 minutes away from the rubble and graffiti, art graces the streets in Greenville, South Carolina. Using art is a new philosophy on how to create an inviting culture. Revitalization projects have sprung up across the state, incorporating artifacts of our past, the beauty of nature, and the imagination of man. Music has become a central staple to attracting visitors. Walking through downtown on a Saturday night, new friends will be graced with the melody of a timeless tune carrying from restaurants. Steel guitars and banjos present the joy and hardship of everyday life. There are many different pieces to the puzzle known as South Carolina. The sleek, streamlined, and natural feel of progress stands side by side with the rubble, the pastures, and the green trees. The beauty of life is that one piece of the puzzle cannot fully explain the complexity here in South Carolina. In the end, it just takes a lot of stories.